Hi, I'm Melinda Van Fleet, and welcome to the Good Karma Success Coach podcast. I'm an author, speaker, and success coach who helps women believe in themselves, build confidence, and take action. In 2009, my husband Ryan and I were laid off at the same time, and we moved to the Florida Keys without jobs, not knowing anyone, hardly any money, and we never even been here. But we made it. And now, not every day is sunshine and rainbows, but we're living our best lives. All along in our journey, I've always said that someday when we get our shit together, we will help others. So each week, my intent is to be relatable and bring you tactical tips, tools, share my learnings and stories that can help inspire or transform you wherever you are in your career or general life and make an impact. I strongly believe that if I can do it, you can do it too. So what's stopping you? Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Good Karma Success Coach podcast. And thank you so much in advance for joining me. This is actually a podcast episode that I thought of recording back in the fall and just never happened. I guess it just wasn't the right time. Who knows, right? And so a couple things had bubbled up to me over the past few weeks, actually, that continue to be in alignment with this discussion, and that is talking about light and dark days. And if you follow me, you know I don't script, so I'm going to kind of go with the flow and see what comes out. If there's any swear words, I apologize. I may mention some names of different things I've read over the past few weeks, or I may not. So if I mention your name or don't mention your name, please don't be offended. And I say the word so a lot. When I listened to my podcast last week with my niece, I said the word so a lot. And my sister had called me out on it a few weeks ago. It's kind of funny. And you know what? I just want people to know that a podcast doesn't have to be perfect. And it's really important to not judge yourself and not allow other people to judge you, but just to go with the flow, speak, get better over time. I'm not saying don't try to get better. But I used to judge everything I said and did, and I'm so glad I stopped doing that, and I stopped listening to what other people have to say. So there you go, and there's a so. So if I have a lot of so's, I'm okay with that. And if it bothers you, I don't know what to tell you. Here we go. Everyone has bad days. I know that often people call out that on social media, people like to project this happy sunshine picture, this rosy picture. Sometimes things are even false or fake. And that causes a lot of people to be triggered or feel bad about themselves, go into comparison mode or judgment. I think that anyone listening to this podcast could likely agree with that statement on some level, and maybe even have experienced that themselves personally and have felt that way before. Where I'm going with this is labels that get put on, whether it's people or just overused out there in the land. The land is social media, obviously. And then if you listen to any webinars or even go to any in-person events or even have a conversation, I really feel that a lot of this lingo is permeating everything. Everything. Even when Ryan and I were watching Inventing Anna on Netflix, the one character, Casey, it was starting to make my skin crawl a little bit how she was always referring to the universe, and it just seemed so contrived. And it just also made me think about all the words that are overused. So what happened in one of these instances was I was reading the comments on someone's YouTube video, and the comments were a bit jarring, and the comments are not something I would say I completely agree with because they did some name calling that was just out of line, and also said some things I just don't believe in, and we'll just leave that at that. There's no reason to go into that. However, this person, I don't know who it is, male or female even, I have no idea, also not important, talked about being able to hold the light and the dark. And darkness is not necessarily evil. And that is what I agree with. So it is okay if you have a bad day. And that bad day may mentally in your brain sometimes be kind of dark. So I'm going to use an example of because hopefully it'll make you laugh. So, Carrie Underwood, Slashing Tires, her song, her very famous song that she has about slashing tires, right? Now, none of us should or truly want to slash tires, but sometimes you're just kind of pissed off or you're just really in the dumps and you feel like slashing a tire, right? Again, I'm not telling you to go slash a tire. I'm not advocating that behavior. I'm just making up this example because we've all heard that song before. And in that, your brain may just be like, gosh, is this worth it? I'm putting all this effort in. Why does this keep happening to me? Why can't I see change? All of those types of thoughts are the pattern in what goes on during that whole process. And if you have heard the terms dark night of the soul, if you Google that, it really, in essence, is just having a really, 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 really shitty day. And you have a major breakdown. So I have had many major breakdowns in my life. And I actually can really remember the dates even. The one that happened to me in the fall, which was why I was originally going to do a podcast way back when, and again, it just didn't happen. Maybe the timing wasn't right. Maybe it wasn't divine timing, was on October 26th. And I was driving to Orlando to meet my friend Shannon. I'd never met her in person. She lives in California. She was going to be in Orlando for a speaking gig, and I wanted to meet her. And so I drove to Orlando, left super early like I normally do if I leave the Keys, and drove up to Orlando, which is 5.5 hours, let's say. During my drive, in the middle of my drive, really when I'd cleared the cities, my husband, Ryan, calls, and if you follow me, we own a sport fishing charter business together called Good Karma Sport Fishing. And we had a really shitty fall. It was bad. I'm not going to lie. It was bad on many levels. And the biggest piece that was always the crutch of it all was a piece of machinery that's on our boat that was extremely expensive, but has really helped my husband do his job. And that piece of equipment had been broken on and off for months. And we thought we had gotten it fixed. So as I'm driving up to Orlando on October 26th, he called me that it broke again. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I had a major breakdown in my car. And it wasn't pleasant. And I'm so glad that no one was on the road because there was a lot of crying in my car because it was just one of those you've got to be fucking kidding me that this has happened again. And I was pissed at the universe. I was pissed at God. I was pissed at everything because it was so out of our control. It still brings tears to my eyes. And that piece of machinery affects so many things. It affects my husband's mood. And if you're a couple, you're in a relationship, you probably don't even have to be in a relationship. You have friendships, family. One person's mood affects the other person. So when he comes home having a bad day, that puts me right in a bad mood too. That is part of life. And it sucks. And so my darkness was out in full force. Not that I was going to hurt anybody. That's not what I'm saying. But why is this happening to me? Blaming God, God, why aren't you listening? Why aren't we seeing change? Why is this still happening? Another expense. We're down again because when this piece of machinery breaks, not only does it cost us a lot of money to fix it, but we also can't run the charter. So it's like the worst of both, scenarios, you could say, is that we're losing money and we're not making money. So where's the money going to come from? And it was just not great. But here's the thing, is when you cry, you break that energy. When you cry, you scream it out, you have that darkness, you end up breaking the energy, and then you end up praying to God. And my tip is, if you're not doing that, do it because it works. And that's why I said, I can go back through my calendar and be like, yep, May 2018, August of 2009. I literally know all the dates of when this awful emotion of really just wanting to hang it up and go live in a box somewhere under a bridge. Why are we doing this, right? Happens to me. But when I cry and pray, something comes over and then change starts to happen, pretty quickly. I'd say a week or two, a couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. Something will change, something will shift. So it's you're breaking that darkness and moving through it and allowing the light to come through. Because we as human beings can be light and dark at the same time. Just because I was really angry at the world didn't mean I wasn't a good person anymore. It didn't mean I wasn't a positive person anymore. I was able to hold both, push through the one, and let the light come back out. And this happened to me on Tuesday. Similar scenario. It always goes back to the damn boat. I love you, boat, but still. Tuesday was just a really weird day. And my husband was having a weird day too. And I ended up going on my walk at the end of the day, which I've been trying to do to move my body, not sit in my desk for so long. And if you do know me and do follow me, my brother died of blood clots and I'm high risk. So it's just a health thing to do, is to move your body. So I suggest that for anyone because you may not know if you're high risk. And it's just a good thing to do, is get out and move your body. So I go out for another walk. And normally I don't listen to content, but I was like, I'm going to listen to this module. The title struck me. It's for a course that I have because I'm in this big program that's a year-long program. And I haven't been following the course because it's not something that I need anymore. So it's, but this one module, I thought the title was interesting, right? So it kind of felt in a clickbait type of scenario, which actually is how I feel about it now in hindsight. So I was listening to this module and already I wasn't in the best headspace. I was just having a kind of day. And the module was terrible. Oh, it was so depressing. She was crying. The story didn't make sense or resonate with what she was trying to talk about. At least for me, it didn't land. I was like, what the heck? And it was kind of in line with how I was feeling in terms of things not working out. And I was like, oh my God, this is awful. Why is this happening to me? So I finally shut it off because then that's a distraction, which is something I might talk about again on this week's Crush It in Sales podcast. But so I finally turned it off and I was like, I have to break this energy. So I'm on my walk and I just started to pray. Prayer is the simplest thing we can all do. Really. Why aren't more people praying? And if you think it's hard, what am I going to say? You're not going to get it wrong. I was just talking to my friend Rosalind Rice, who's a best-selling author of the book that has prayer in it, Power of One. I highly recommend it. And we were talking about this. Pray. Pray. Dear God, please help me. Thank you for everything. If it's something as simple as that. I mean, do you know the Lord's Prayer? Say the Lord's Prayer. Most people know it if you grew up going to church like I did. My husband does not know it because he did not go to church, but we say it at night now. And he'll learn it just from me saying it in the repetition. The Serenity Prayer, another great prayer. Amazing prayer, actually. I think that's my favorite too. But I said a prayer. I came home. I sat on my couch and I cried. Not for a long time, just like 5 minutes. But it broke up the energy. And then the next day, some magical things happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. So my week ended up turning out on a high. And the craziest thing is that Tuesday, again, it was Tuesday, March 14th. As I mentioned, Ryan was having a bad day. So he was really down in the dumps. And his was really just because he hadn't been fishing in a long time. So he needs to go fishing to get out of the house, clear his energy, just be on the water. Obviously that's part of our story with moving to the Keys is his depression and being able to go fishing. But I ended up listening to a video, and I can't remember her name, but she's an astrologist, and my friend Deborah had recommended her. And her video was talking about how Tuesday the 14th was going to be a bad day in terms of astrology and the planets. I had Ryan listen to it. I was like, I guess we weren't alone. But I moved through it. I moved through the darkness. I moved through all the pity party of, oh my God, this isn't going to work out. And why do we have more boat problems again? And expense and blah, 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 right? I prayed. I came home and cried on my couch for 5 minutes. And then things started to get better. Things started to shift. I started to shift the energy. So if you are someone who struggles with this, just keep it simple. Really, it's the simplest thing. It's like breathing. We have these amazing gifts that have been given to us to help us. And crying is one of them. It's okay. It's okay to cry. And if you're a man and you don't want to be seen crying, go in a room and cry. Close the door. You don't have to tell anybody. You don't have to do a podcast like this. Don't tell anybody. Go in your car. Go to an empty parking lot. It will help you so much. It's really unbelievable. And obviously praying is too. So we have these tools: breathing, crying, praying, meditation, going for a walk, being outside, nature. These are all just tools, simple tools. But we forget to use them. We forget that we have them. We don't take advantage of them. Instead, we do other things, right? Some people self-medicate with food, drugs, alcohol. There are other tools that you can use to shift the darkness. And know that you're not a bad person. There's a difference between darkness and evil. There is. There's a difference between darkness and evil. And I believe if you're listening to this, you're not evil. You just might have some dark days once in a while. And we all do. We all do. And I actually believe that I kind of want to make it a practice more. Why is it only when it's so bad, right? What if it happened more frequently? Would things shift even more frequently? And if going for a walk and praying and crying isn't your thing, maybe it's taking a bath. Ryan takes a bath sometimes. Maybe it's taking a bath. For me, sometimes it's sitting in the hot tub. So find your quote unquote happy place, like people talk about on social media. But know that you can shift it. You have the power to shift it. And from my experience, at least, and I'd love to hear your opinion, things always tend to get better pretty quickly. Just can't put a time limit on things. You can't put expectation. That could be a whole other podcast. But know that. Just know in your knowing that things will shift and start to get better. So I hope you like this podcast. One thing I failed to mention is that, yes, I have private one-on-one coaching, but I also do laser coaching. And I started doing laser coaching last year because I realized that often I just wanted to ask somebody I follow a question or help with like one thing. I didn't want to sign up for some big, ginormous package. And I was like, I just have one thing. So I started doing that last year, and I'm going to talk about that more and more. So as you follow me, as you listen to my words, as you read, I'm on medium.com, or I've read my books or anything I write about on social media. If you're like, gosh, I would just really like to pick Melinda's brain on one thing, and I just need an hour, feel free to email me about that too. So melinda@melindavanfleet.com. I'm on all the socials. And until next time, be grateful, be curious, always be learning, and you know what? Have some fun too. Thank you for listening.